Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be subbing in for Claire. This is Scott Oldendorf. Let's see. I just want to remind everyone, please mute your microphones. This will help ensure that there's no feedback or background noises that may interfere with the speaker. If a committee member would like to speak or ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature. Remember to lower your hand once your question has been answered and you have finished speaking. When you are ready to speak, please unmute your microphone. This is especially important during votes. Do not forget to mute your microphone when finished. As a reminder, audience members are only permitted to speak during the call to the audience unless called upon by the committee. This meeting is being recorded to satisfy the open meeting law requirements. So we're going to jump right into roll call. I understand we have quorum.
Sir.
Go ahead.
Alan Forrest. Here. Alejandra.
Here.
Okay. Anne Marie.
Here.
Eric.
Here.
Kirsten.
Here.
Matt Mathewson.
Here.
Okay. And Scott Oldendorf.
Here.
Is there anyone I missed? All right, we have a quorum.
It's barely a quorum, so no bathroom break, sorry.
Okay, if we can all stand for a pledge of allegiance.
Just 2 seconds, please.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for a call to the audience, do we have anybody having anything to address on call to the audience? Okay, hearing none, we're going to jump to safety share. Does anybody have a safety share for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, 4th of July is coming. And at no time do you want to have any of these leave your hand. Enjoy the 4th, but be very careful if you're playing with sparklers or any other type of pyrotechnic device.
And don't go shooting a gun up in the air.
Because what goes up must come down.
Yes.
Well, then I'm just going to add a safety share. This is common sense. This is the 4th of July weekend. We're going to have extra traffic. There's going to be some revelry and partying, some extra drinking and other things. So please be careful for yourself, be careful for others. And if you see something, say something. So please, everybody have a 4th, because we want to have another year and another year and another year after that of independence. Any other safety shares? Jackson, you've let us down. You always have a wealth of knowledge.
I one up that, Scott. I have safety as one of my director talking points, so there.
Oh,
I'll wait
okay.
for that. I won't steal my thunder twice.
Okay, very good, sir. Okay, hearing no more safety shares, we'll go on to the approval of the minutes. I hope everybody had a copy of their Thursday, May 23rd, 2024 minutes. Is there any correction, amendments, or anything like that on the minutes? Okay, sounds like Jeanette, you did a great job because there's no complaints. Okay, all in favor of the minutes of May 23rd?
Actually, I'll make a motion first. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes first. Okay. So.
You're a little husky here.
Yeah, I know I am. I'm just over enthusiastic.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Eric seconded.
Eric seconded it. Okay, we're good to go. Now my enthusiasm can say, do we all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
We have one nay?
That was an aye.
Oh, that was an aye. Aye, aye, aye. Okay, no nays. Any abstains? Okay, the meeting minutes of May 23rd so passes. Okay, next is the discussion that we're going to have, and our illustrious director, Jackson Jenkins, is going to give us an update.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. We always appreciate your time you devote to this utility and the help you provide. Wow, I haven't had that introduction before. So,
Everybody excited.
yeah. So I'm just gonna run through some things and, if you have a question or something about it, let me know. But in the past, there's been an interest in the Canoa Ranch Sewer Extension Project. And I don't know how to tell this story, but, you know, we've been trying to extend the sewer down south, and we started on the west side of the interstate, then we went to the east side of the interstate, then we went back to the west side of the interstate, then we took different alignments along that side of the interstate, and every time we struck out for one reason or other, but most all of them because the cost estimates and or bids that came in for those projects were way more than we budgeted and way more than we anticipated because of various technical complications and other things. So finally, I was ready to throw in the towel, but Mr. Jaime Rivera, who's in the room and heads up our Deputy Director of Technical Service and Engineering, was persistent and worked with ADOT on one final alignment on the west side of the interstate. And it happens to be in alignment with virtually no conflicts, or it's in between the interstate and the frontage road on that side. And it doesn't have any high banks or encroachments or obstacles. At least I say that. I better knock on wood or something. But with that, we believe the estimate will be very much within our budget or very close to our budget. So maybe once again, that project will proceed. Hopefully I didn't jinx it by bringing that up, but that is the latest update unless there's any questions on it. And Jaime, anything else on that? All right.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Will the sewer line also tie in the two rest areas that are there?
It's up to, it's up to them to accept, or they may elect to keep their own septic system they have.
Okay, good.
All right, just another one, the second item, just to mention before, but the Regional Flood Control District will be doing some work in the Santa Cruz River, very close to the Roger Road, the shutdown Roger Road facility. And because at some point in the future, we do plan to find the most beneficial use for that site, Flood Control has asked if they could make it a short haul and provide some of that excavation out of the river to the Roger Road site because it's very close. So they save money on the project by not hauling it wherever they were going to haul it to. And we will stockpile some soils there for filling in some of the mini voids and tanks and different things depending on the final use. But we're going to get some dirt over there at no cost. So we'll coordinate it. And Jaime had told me earlier that they were going to be starting to haul probably here sometime in July. So hang in there. On the third item was the Sarita partnership on looking at a regional water reclamation facility down there in the area of the town of Sahuarita. And, you know, we both have designated management areas. And so coordinating and working together seems to make sense. We're interested in doing it. The town is very interested in doing it. We just recently both had the city, the town council and the board of supervisors sign off on a contract with that. We're going to split the cost. What is it? Up to 125,000 each, 250 total, 125,000 each, up to that amount. And we're bringing in Corolla, who's done some work for both entities in some planning and whatnot, but they are going to work with us to iron out all the details of the partnership to propose to the respective council and board. So this isn't a technical or a design or capacity or any of that stuff. This is how do we make this partnership work? Who's going to do what? How are we going to fund it? Who's going to provide money when? who owns the effluent, all the things that you would expect would come out of a partnership. That's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna have a meeting on that. You said when, Timmy? Tomorrow, to set up the schedule to move that process forward. So finally putting rubber and road together, and we'll see if we can all come to good terms and make that project a continued reality. So that's it for that one.
I got a request soon for information about that. And so you spoke that this effort, the meeting tomorrow, not about finalizing capacity, but what is anticipated capacity as well as the projection for when it's maybe.
So, some of those details are still to be worked out. And, and every time you're planning for the timing, your crystal ball, never perfect, but it will be probably early 2030, 2032, somewhere in there. And that's going to be interesting because the town's needs and the county's needs, they're probably not going to align perfectly. So how do we make sure we're satisfying each other? But early 2030s is probably the most likely scenario. And then as far as capacity, at least initially with the preliminary work that's been done, we would likely build an 8 MGD facility out there with expansion over time as both entities build out or grow out their service areas. But that's still, that will come in the final design and stuff. 8 kind of the ballpark right now. All right. Let's see.
Jackson, clarification, early 2030, is that to start or finish?
It would probably be built, but, online in early 2030.
The numbers that you provided, 125, that's 125,000 for doing the initial studies and design work and all?
No, the 125,000 each or up to 250,000 is only to work through all the legalese about the partnership. Nothing technical at this time. That will come, and typically a rule of thumb, this is right now anticipated to be in the neighborhood of both the pipelines that have to be built and the water treatment facility, upwards of $200 million. And the design effort is in that 10 to 15% range. So it would be a $20+ million effort to design that facility. Something like that.
And are you still thinking that the Corona flows would come to that?
The Corona would be the last one, and it's all based on timing of growth and development. But initially, Green Valley would be almost immediately, would have to be on the startup of Green Valley would. And then the current expansion growth for both of our entities. But they would probably not shut down the Rancho Cerrita plant right away. That would come later, and that will be where is that blip on the curve for expansion or capacity, and Corona also. And then one other entity is the Tohono O'odham Nation right there too, and they have a little plant right at the casino, but what are their plans? And we still have to get them to the table to see if they want capacity or what they're interested in doing. So a lot of work ahead of us, but we need to get out of the starting blocks as a team, as a partnership, and that's what we got to work on first. But intent and concept, we're all in. All right?
Jackson.
Yes.
So there's also been talk of a program manager to oversee this project plus others. How is that timing working into these
Yeah.
negotiations and design, et cetera?
Yeah, so when we delivered the regional optimization master plan, the big, this facility, the Agua Nueva facility next door that replaced Roger Road, and what we did at Tres Rios for regulatory compliance reasons and for capacity reasons. We spent about 600 million and had a tremendous successful effort, but we did it through hiring a program manager to oversee all the functions there. Greeley Hansen played that role for us when we did that. And we're thinking this is still a smaller scale, but we think this is appropriate to bring in a program manager to handle all the work associated with this, whatever this final outcome is going to be. And we're looking at, advertising, and, it's going to take a while to get all the cues in order and get everything launched. So that won't be too far from now before we hire a program manager.
So are you thinking like this fall or
I'm not sure. I mean, if we pinpointed when we're gonna go out for that one, the program manager for the Rita effort.
Is that this next fiscal year, like between July and December? July,
Maybe at the
July-
end of this fiscal year.
End of this
That's our
fiscal
plan.
year, so like next summer,
Correct.
potentially, or next spring. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
all right, next one. That concludes my updates of activities, but I got safety items now. Oh, I do?
You got
No, I don't.
inflation.
This is the- which one?
Impact of inflation.
Oh, I sure do. Who put that in there?
You.
Yeah, so, we've always take great efforts to make sure that we're tracking and monitoring our budget and doing everything we can to stay within our budgeted allowances, not spend wantingly or unnecessarily. So I think we have very good financial stewards throughout our organization. But the one that we have the hardest time controlling for some reason is inflation, and it's definitely put the pressures on us. And we still are dealing with it. It's definitely been tamed, but it's not down where it's historically been for a while. And we're seeing that continued, just like I talked about the extending the sewer line to Canoa Ranch and beyond. The cost for that project just really was astronomical, and we were surprised, and we even bid different companies and different organizations, and still they were quite high. So we realize that's kind of where we're headed in this time frame, and so we just have to be very careful about what we're selecting to go forward with and what we can't go forward with. It looks like for the budget year we're in, we're very close. It's that the way the system works is the county actually has checks and balances where our budget gets locked or frozen, especially as you get close to the end of the year and you had a certain spend amount authorized or approved. As you start approaching that number, for actual, checks written or expenditures paid, and for accruals when you're kind of tying up your money because you have a contract. Well, I know I'm going to pay TEP for electricity, and we had an estimate for what that will be. Well, sometimes those estimates are a little bit extra just to make sure we have enough in the contract. Then as you get to the final end of the year, you can cut back a little bit on those contracts, the money you won't spend. And amazingly, you come real close to your budget at the end of the year. But it's very painful usually the last couple of months because you're going along to do business, and then you get a note from finance saying there's a budget lock, there's a freeze in place because you've got to clear some of your accruals that are out there. And it's just the way that it's a good way to make sure somebody doesn't go crazy with the budget, but it's also a lot of extra work to get to the end of the year. We're only a few days away, I think, from that. So I think we could almost hold our breath. But what we do is, especially like, for instance, we knew chemical is a good one. A lot of the chemicals were much higher unit costs than we had budgeted for. And sure enough, our chemical budget will be exceeded at the end of the year. But, the county has not typically budgeted for vacancy savings. So we did have a little cushion of vacancy savings in our wages and benefits category. So we take those under budget extra dollars and move them over to the chemicals or the supplies area. And that keeps us going. But it is a little bit of a shell game at the end of the year. And we're closing in on the end of the year, but we had to do a lot of that. So let's see, what else are we going to say there? Anything else?
Excuse me.
Just one project that was kind of a lemon. It didn't work out right for us, and that was here at Green Valley. We have 2 screen systems that screen the incoming influent, remove obvious things you don't want going through your process. And one of them is very old and needed to be replaced. Well, they're both old, I should say, but you got to start somewhere. And we decided to replace one, and we went with a different manufacturer, somebody that we've used in other applications. But it's a great screen that they sold us, but it's just not the right application and it's created issues for us. So we've been meeting with them and we basically are saying, this ain't right. You guys take your screen back, refund our money. We're gonna rebuild the old one to get us through and see if we can make it limp till the end of Green Valley if we build a new plant in the next, 6, 7, 8 years or so. But, we may have to go back and buy a screen there in the future. But right now, it just didn't work out and we're working on getting the old one completely refurbished and, be done cheaper in the end. But there was a lot of people that didn't think we could do it, but I think we're being forced to now. So anyway, that was just a little update. Okay, now I'm ready to move into H1B for safety update. And I'm still very happy to announce that for the fiscal year, which ends in a few days, we have had 7 recordable injuries. I'm not happy about 7 recordable injuries, but I'm happy for the continued statistical improvements. I've been here now. I just had my 20th anniversary earlier this month. And when I was here from early days, we were having between 30 and 40 recordable injuries a year. With our focus and all the safety champions throughout our organization, we've got down to this 10 to 12 range. So that's a tremendous improvement, but a long ways from our stated goal of 0. And it will always be 0 is our goal for recordable injuries. Can't have anything else. So to see and by the way, most of our statistics, or I should say our statistical measurement point is a calendar year, because that's how you report safety to the national entities that you put your information, or the state entities. It's on a calendar basis, but we look at both. Of course, as this calendar year comes to the end, we'll see where we are. But this is the first of either calendar year or fiscal year where we've been in single-digit recordable injuries. So we're proud about it. And I mean, every day, I start early in the morning participating and listening to our coordination of maintenance efforts in the morning of the things that have to happen all in throughout. And it's amazing the magnitude and scope of things that happen and the environment and equipment that people use to do it. And we're doing quite well on that safety side. And every conversation I listen to, there's safety is a key part of that, not just the coordination of time and tools and, who's doing what. It's always also about the safety aspect and the lockout tagouts and stuff. And it was even another amazing, just to watch these things. It's just, you're like a proud father when you're sitting there watching this stuff. But on Saturday at Tres Rios, TEP was impacted by the storms that were rolling through the area. And somewhere, we have the 2 big sections, the yards that provide power to us. And the idea is, well, if one were to go down, you could go to the other one. Well, it's not just like an automatic thing. It's a lot of work in between there that TEP does when they have a problem. But a storm, I don't know if it was a lightning strike or what, but something took out the leg we were on, and we lost power at Tres Rios. And so, as soon as that happens, everything, this is a big plant with hundreds and hundreds of pieces of equipment and things that you have to do to get it started again. It's not like, okay, go flip the switch back on. It's a lot more involved. And we had to call in electricians and just a tremendous effort by people that came in and by the staff on site on a Saturday to get that plant back up. And I don't know, Jim, what was it down? Maybe 4 or 5 hours total?
Probably was down twice.
Well, I'm getting to the second one. Just the first one was like, don't steal my thunder, dang it. But everybody worked like mad and safely and got it going and high-fived each other and back to business. And then some of the people that were called in headed home. And shortly thereafter, TEP called to say, oh, we found another issue. It's related to what happened. We have to take it down again. And we're like, no. And before we even hung up the phone, everything went dark again because they gave us warning, but I mean, it was in seconds, not in minutes or hours. And so back to the phone, and I think people just made it home and were ready to celebrate their victory, and then they had to come back out. And now it's even more challenging because it now shifted from people that were on the day shift. Remember, we worked 12-hour shifts on a 24-hour basis. So the new shift of night shift is thinner staffed, it doesn't have as many people on night shift. And typically not as experienced on night shift because you're not doing near as many things. So it made for a much more challenging second time to go through it again. But the good news of all the intricate and mad work that you had to do in the chaos, the controlled chaos, nobody got hurt and on we go. So safety is our goal and we're doing quite well, but we're not going to rest until we get and maintain 0 recordable injuries. Alan?
Yeah, I'm just curious, Jackson, the 7 recordables, were those all in the field or were some of them office related or?
I know at least one was somebody that hurt in a car accident, not at fault, but it counts as a recordable. But most of them are in the field, but I can't remember what those 7 are. I can't tell you right at this moment. I don't think, every once in a while we have some in the office and we have as much conversation with safety in places that aren't industrial settings, but most of them are in the
That's why I
industrial.
was asking, because in my career, a lot of times, slips and falls are like the number one, and a lot of times those happen in the office or wherever, so, it's not
Yep,
always
That's right.
in the field.
And when we really started including office environment staff into safety meetings and discussions, they were quite impressed and realized the importance of it everywhere and not just in the office, but make sure you take it home with you too and stuff. It's a good success to share and we will hope to continue our improvement as we go. And then the second item on that safety.
Jackson?
Yeah.
On the Trace Rios, so you had 2 incidences for the one thing. Cumulatively, how many hours do you think you were down? And how did that affect? Did it just stop doing the sewage and?
Yeah, we called every resident, and told them not to flush for a while. Hold it, yeah. Actually, at Trace Rios, where, this was impacted by the power, we have emergency overflow basins there.
Okay.
And it's enough for maybe a day and a half, or it depends on all the situations, but you could have a day, or if you got real lucky, maybe 2 days of storage, but you never want to get to that point. We've done that once in our career since I've been here for 20 years. But we filled up some ponds over there, a good amount, and then you start flowing that back. Once you get back to running, then you got sewage coming in and you pump the ponds back,
So cumulatively over the 2 incidences, how long do you think you were
I mean,
down?
it could have probably had as much as 10 hours or somewhere in that range, half a day at the
Okay.
most. So, but I don't know, Jim, do you know if the ponds are empty yet?
They are.
They're empty.
You understand when this happened, Scott, it was high flow period.
Oh,
So you get 30,000 gallons a minute coming at you right now.
yeah,
It doesn't take long.
yeah, right.
The other item is, I just want to bring up, my additional safety share is the heat aspect. It's great to see the county really mobilizing on, worker safety. Well, it's really for the community safety and in the heat environment that we live in. And there's a lot of activities that they're doing and a lot of other entities that are involved. But my focus is we've always had a strong heat training component and PPE, personal protective equipment, and making sure we have cool drinks and shade breaks or air conditioner breaks. And even one thing that we always talk about in our monthly KPIs is don't be wasting, don't idle your vehicles. If you're going somewhere, shut them off. But we take a very cautious approach to that in the summertime. You can idle your vehicles if you need to get in and run the air conditioner to cool off. And we're not going to go beat you over the head about it. So just a whole bunch of things that go on. And it's nice to see the whole county pushing that effort, both in the community and in the employees here in Pima County, especially those that work in the outside for some or all of their day. We definitely have a lot of those types, and we take heat safety very seriously and making sure people know what to look for and don't just take care of yourself and drink, hydrate and take breaks and all that, but watch out around you because, we have had people get in some heat distress before, and luckily people have caught it and got them the help they needed. So that's all I got on that one. And then my last item is, item C is the Tres Rios 48-inch pipeline. You know, we call it emergency repair, but I guess I can remove emergency. It is an emergency. We're in a non-intended way to operate, but it could have been worse had, you know, this pipe that failed that conveyed, you know, after the primary process, it takes the flow to the next step in the process. And had that line that failed not filled up the vessel or the basin it was in and continue on its journey like it was a drain, we would have really been in a bad way. But we've looked at different emergency repairs and different pipe materials, and we were gonna work with high density polyethylene going in there to replace that mild steel pipe that had a concrete lining in it that right now it's not even, Swiss cheese is even an exaggeration of it. But the lead time to get, you know, the HDPE pipe in that 48-inch size is achievable, but it's all the fittings and elbows and 90s and T's and things that you would need to tie everything back in. They were many weeks, if not months, I think, was the lead time on that stuff. So we changed pipe materials. We've mobilized a contractor that we're going to be pumping around. We're going to bypass that corroded area and pump around. And I think that we're just getting ready to, we're getting everything in place. All the pumps were staged and the pipelines getting ready to be used for the pump around. Then they can get in there. And I know all the replacement pipe, we went with a different plastic type pipe. It's on site as well. So that job will be taking place here in July. And Jeff, you got a start date of when you're going to start the pump around, or?
I think it's the 8th of July. So I think it's July 8th.
Okay,
We're
so
waiting after the holiday.
just a lot of preparation and, you know, just amazing, again, a lot of odd, unusual work, and nobody's gotten hurt. And hopefully we will continue that trend.
Sorry to press you on the technical aspect, but do you have any idea what that alternate pipe material was?
Was it the pipe for that is?
It's a cured CIPP pipe.
No. Was that
The new pipe or the old?
the new pipe that they're putting out, that's staged out
So
there?
we're doing all polypropylene, it'll be HDP pipe, and then we're gonna sleeve with the CIPP in some of the sections we can't get HDP for.
Gotcha.
I think the 48/6 inch is gonna be.
Yeah, there's some pipe out on the deck, and I mean, it's like PVC, but I don't know if it is, what exact material it is, but there's some of it staged out there for some of the jobs. So it's a combination of some places we can't get to that are downstream that we're not.
Different pipe material.
Yeah.
It'll be all plastic material this time, so we want to do
I guarantee we won't use mild steel with concrete lining ever. And all you engineers on this call, make sure you don't recommend that ever. All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Jackson, I just want a clarification on heat policy. You said it's okay for the workers to go in their vehicles to cool off. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, because I kind of remember the day when I was there, they didn't want to waste gas and they didn't want to have the vehicles turned on. Am I correct in that memory?
Yeah, there was more of a stress, you know, I mean, at that time, the new metric was idling, how, because the county, you know, it was air quality and how much our vehicles, that we have a tremendous fleet of vehicles. And, you know, it's part of business. You got to use them and go places and do things. But looking at it, because we've got the GPS system and it monitors all kind of things on a vehicle, including idle time when it's running and not moving. And there are times that could happen, especially if you have a PTO or some, you know, takeoff system to run something. But in general, it's people are just stopped and they don't need to run the vehicle because it doesn't help the air quality. But now with this heat effort that's going on in the county, they're like, well, there are times where that is not, if we're not going to monitor or not criticize somebody that's using a vehicle to cool off. So it's just, it's not like a change, it's just different focus and an appropriate focus. And that's the kind of with time, you refine your policies and your efforts, and that's where we're at.
I'm really happy to hear that, because in the day when I was here, boy, that was a big complaint with the workers.
Yeah, but still, the sleeping in the vehicles is still not allowed.
Well, you can, you just can't run the engine.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Jackson, for that. Does anybody have any questions for Jackson on the delivery of all the topics there. Jackson, you did a great job. Nobody with a question.
You're tired of listening to me, Scott.
Okay, well, everybody's had their chance. If no questions. Oh, Claire, there you are, young lady.
Yes, I had a very challenging morning. I'm sorry. I really apologize.
Very good. Well, welcome, Claire. Okay, if that's it for the director's update, next on the agenda is elections of officers, nominations, and voting procedures. Who has that one?
Well,
Just in time.
Well, I think we're recommending that this committee does the same as last year. You know, first of all, anyone that wants to nominate themselves or be nominated, we'll take that list and we will then do a polling electronically through email or whatever to get the votes. We wanted to make sure we open it up because I think we have like 4 new members out here. So let's just make sure everybody feels that they have the opportunity to participate at whatever level they want. You know, it's just great that you're all here at this main committee meeting. That's what we love to see, and happy everyone can commit and devote the time that they do. But we do have a couple of subcommittees, which we'll report out here shortly. And it's always good to have some leadership to keep us on track and tell Jackson to shut up when he talks too much. So with that, I would just say, probably you could open up now for nominations, but we could take them electronically as well. And then we'll send out the poll or ballot or whatever. But we need to get moving on that. So that's our recommendation. And Claire and Scott and committee, if you guys have any other comments, let us know.
Okay, and I'll, as one person, Scott Oldendorf, I'll try and help out wherever I can, as chair, vice chair, whichever. Claire, what would you like to do?
Well, again, I apologize for today. I had a work thing happen and it's quite noisy here. But I would love to continue as chair. I'm happy to do whatever the committee would like for me to do. I very much enjoy being involved in the leadership team, but I'm happy to step down if that's what people would like. So I'm happy to do either one. But I do like being chair.
Right, well, there's 2 nominations I just heard.
Anybody else in another world out there online? Any new members that are here? Anybody like to step and say you want to do it? Anybody? Oh, it's quiet around here. Okay, not having anything forthcoming, please, the main person here is Jeanette. Send her your wish. If you would like to do for something, Jeanette, you do your thing that you always do and let us know what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, and that way, when we reach out electronically, we'll get the members that aren't here today too. So in case they are interested or want to nominate somebody, they can. And as soon as we complete that task, we will send out the ballot or the poll for the committee to vote on, and we'll get that wrapped up pretty quick.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is the Compliance and Regulatory Affairs Office update. Max, can you enlighten us on that, please?
I will.
Coming up next.
Set up.
There you go, my friend.
Okay. So I have been reminded, not once, but twice just today to keep it short. So we'll see. First, welcome to Water Campus. We're home the Compliance Regulatory Affairs Office. I'm part of Technical Services and Engineering, which has had some changes recently. And how do we get this to? There we go. Used to be headed by Eric Wiedewilt, but in October, Jaime Rivera came in and took control of Technical Services and Engineering and brought along with him the CIP group. So we have CIP, Field Engineering, engineering services, and then Creo. And within Creo, we have Kimberly Baeza leading our permitting and water quality group, Tanya Weber leading data management unit, Steve King leading IWC, industrial wastewater control and pretreatment, Janelle Kraft leading our laboratory, and then Angela Valenzuela leading the admin team, which keeps everything running.
Which one of those two is Angela?
Whew, is it hot in here? Last time I went over kind of the mission and function of Creo, but really this time I'll just cover some of the key projects that we've been working on and some kind of unique ideas. The first one I'll touch on is RV dump sites. So last year we got the Board of Supervisors got a complaint of an RV dump site, which is where you take the waste from your camper RV, but when you're putting it in, cleaning it out, and where do you dump it? You don't have it clean out at home, so you take it to one of these public sites. There's about 30 around town. We inspected them all, got a tally list of what had pluses, what had minuses, and we released a guidance, which you see on the right up there very recently, with ideas of needs to have running water, needs to have a curbed and sloped area and a lockable drain cover, et cetera. And we've sent that out along with our inspection reports to all of the RV dump site owners. And recently we designed the sign that you see in the middle, and we're having those printed that we can also put there as well. These have kind of, we reached out to other Arizona municipalities on how they are regulating these dump sites, and it's kind of an unspoken gray area. Nobody really wants to touch it. So we're taking a stab at it. That's a guidance now. It may turn into an ordinance later, but something we're trying to address.
All
Yes.
these are privately owned.
They are privately owned and available to the public. And some of them are free. You pull up and dump it, and it's not controlled, it's not manned. Some of them have a lock and cover, and you have to go in and pay $5 to get the key to go unlock it. The annual grease campaign is no longer going to be the annual grease campaign. We're looking to work with communications to make it a year-round effort, and have regular locations that people can take their grease, and that'll be advertised as a year-round effort. Otherwise, when we coordinate it, it's a lot of work to organize it. It's a lot of extra staff hours. It's on a Saturday, so now we have people working Saturdays. And so we're trying that this year. This year will be the first year that we do that.
But still around the holidays will be the focus area of that campaign, and really to launch this year-round, here are the sites you can go to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, the whole purpose of the grease collection effort was really just to use it as a public service announcement that we don't want grease in the sewer. It's a problem in the sewer. But just doing that one-day collection, a lot of work, and it's not it would be much better if people had more places throughout the year to do it, and that's what we're going to start to do in advertising and marketing as such. So thanks.
Our industrial pretreatment team is doing a local limits study, and we operate on AZIPD's permits, which are our Clean Water Act. They're designated by the Clean Water Act, and as part of that, an industrial user may have categorical limits, which are broad range set by EPA. For every metal finisher, they may all share categorical limits. Well, we are also required to do local limits, which more characterizes how our treatment system works and how our own maximum headworks loading can be. And so we're supposed to be doing this every 5 years. I think it was last done in 2013. ADEQ understands that every 5 years is not quite attainable. You're supposed to review them every 5 years, but we are going through the whole effort of collecting about 200 samples from different locations in the conveyance. We're going to compare those results to our influent and effluent and see if we need to recalculate any of our local limits. The lab routinely needs to be updated and upgraded. These are 4 new instruments and pieces of equipment that we just got. We'll be getting some, not this upcoming fiscal year will be a light year for us, but following that will be pretty big. On the left is a gas chromatograph for analyzing pesticides. On the top is a BOD analyzer, biochemical oxygen demand. Bottom middle is a discrete analyzer for low-level nitrates, nitrites, and then on the bottom right is just a muffle furnace that we just received as well. We continue to do wastewater surveillance, though the national kind of awareness of it, I would say, has kind of gone down as the public health emergency has ended last year. But health department wants us to continue is with a new effort too. They're interested in monkeypox. We've tried it before. They've tried it before, but with there being fewer cases and it having fewer, lesser viral loading, viral shedding, they just never really detect it, though they do see it in their hospitals. So what they want to do is collect 2 additional samples from certain locations in our conveyance system. And they had requirements that the sample location can't target an event. So rodeos in town, well, we can't just take that wastewater and see what the rodeo impact is. Can't target tribal areas and must represent over 3,000 people. So we selected 2 locations here in red. One of them's downstream of downtown. One of them's up in the Oro Valley area. And we'll be collecting these samples in the next couple weeks. Roger Road, I don't think I really need to add too much on this. You all received a pretty good presentation, I think 2 months ago, on the efforts in remediating this area. So I don't recall if it was announced at that one, but we're awarded the grant, the $500,000 grant. And so as we move forward with that, it's a tremendous amount of work just to get all your ducks in a row to actually spend that money. But we'll be doing some hazard abatement for less lead-based paint materials and asbestos-containing materials here coming up. We continue on Marana High Plains to permit this expansion from 600 acre-feet to 1,200 acre-feet. We were supposed to have by now received the upgraded water or the upgraded permit from ADWR, but they missed their deadline. They're pretty short-staffed, and we didn't get a new date for when they expected to have it to us. But continuing trying to upgrade our amount of water that we can recharge.
Yeah. Quick question on that. So that was just a permit upgrade. Did you have to do any physical?
They've done upgrades to the facility over the years, over the last 2 decades, but it has always been, when it was a pilot permit and then turned into a real plant, a real pilot plant turned into a real facility. It was always permitted at 600. And throughout the years, it's always maxed out at 600. And we went through an effort and did more hydrogeological work and proved that it could take more. So really just a capacity increase.
Thanks.
Yep. Green Valley managed recharge. So we've investigated the idea of recharge at Green Valley through in-stream recharge. And we completed hydrogeological work earlier this May. We're getting ready to apply to ADWR for a permit. Of course, we do know they're short-staffed and behind, so that's going to take probably at least a year once we do submit that. But that'll be an interesting idea if we want to put water for recharge there. Now, there are some downsides to manage recharge, of course. There's a 50% cut to the aquifer. Outflow past the boundary of the project doesn't receive credit. There's no credit for storm days, but there's plenty of upsides to it too, including ecological benefits. But there's a couple of things we'd have to figure out too, like a dechlorination system. And we have the Aziptes permit, but we don't use it. But then we'd be operating with APP and Aziptes, and it would change some of our sampling and analysis, but we're used to that already. So it would be a change that we're used to. So.
That operation, have you been in contact with the USC Pug group?
Yes.
On that? And
So they do a quarterly meeting with Bureau of Reclamation. I joined that and I mentioned it was something that we were doing hydrological work for. They said they're interested in using our study as in-kind work.
Yeah.
But it's something that they are aware of.
okay. Because that area is kind of south of Pima Mine Road is a sub area of the AMA for Tucson. And they are getting more critical in regards to aquifer overcharge, overdraft of the aquifer. And so I'm interested in that, especially since I live down there and I'm on the water board, Green Valley. So that's a high point to me.
Yeah. And we already do recharge there. We do recharge at the water reclamation facility.
Because that's
Yep.
already, they're getting 1 million
Yep.
gallons. And you have the ability to do it in a zone there that you have ponds. You also, I think, can actually discharge into the river.
So that's what this would be. Yeah. But we don't have a permit for it through ADWR. We have permits for our basins.
Right.
So we wouldn't get credit until we actually have the ADWR permit for this managed recharge project.
Okay.
But we could. We have an Aziptes permit. As long as we did the analysis per that permit, we could. And all the other things related to the permit. But yeah, it wouldn't be, we had this permitted for the full model, or modeled for the full 4.1 MGD of the facility, Green Valley. Though we know we're obligated to give Robeson 1 MGD, but what do we do with the rest? And what if Robeson says, sorry, we don't want it anymore? So that's why we did the whole permitted volume.
What does 50% cut?
Excuse, go ahead.
So 50% cut to the aquifer is if I put 1 acre foot of water into the river, I only get half an acre foot of credit.
A recharge credit.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
But up here, we get 95%
Yeah,
now.
yeah, I got you. Okay, thank you.
Hopefully we can get that changed.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there any thought that there's a contract with Robeson currently,
Yes.
and that runs through what time period?
Forever.
Forever?
Yes. It doesn't have a termination. But if you don't meet that shut down the Green Valley, then what,
Right.
So
That was gonna
something
be
may
my-
change here anyway.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Okay. Mount Lemon, I think Jackson has mentioned it recently. A couple of years ago, the U.S. Forest Service decided that they didn't want to renew our special use permit to the spray field to discharge the treated effluent on the north side, the San Pedro watershed. And so we continue this. We when in talking with them, we agreed that they would be okay with us installing a water feeder or an animal waterer, in addition to keeping the spray field, and as long as we got a reuse permit. But now talking with ADEQ, they want us to get an individual APP, which would move us away from our type 1.09 general permit, which is not advantageous. So we have a meeting in a couple weeks with ADEQ to discuss how we can move forward, if there's room for an exemption or accommodation or something, because the facility is very small. You can see it in the red, it all fits in that one red cabin looking building on the bottom. It's permitted for 15,000 gallons per day, typically treats 4,000 to 5,000 gallons per day, which is, a couple shower heads worth of water. It's really not a lot. And then Copper World, I brought this up because we did participate in writing comments for county administrator because of our knowledge of APP permits. And those were submitted back in April. There were 56 comments, about 20 pages worth. And interesting to follow that if you're interested. Jackson likes to remind me that I've made some powerful enemies in the mining industry regularly. Reminds me, but he got out alive, so must be possible. Yeah, it's the Rosemont Copper. They just rebranded it because it's Rosemont Copper was just going to be on that east side of the Santa Ritas, in the old Rosemont camp. Copper World's going to be on both sides, and Helvetia side, and they've expanded tremendously. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just wasn't sure it was the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I presented last week to PAG on a permit update. Have done several things, including the next one. I was invited to be a delegate for Pima County when 5 people from Indonesia came. There were conservationists and people from health, and want to discuss all the topics, how we regulate mines and deal with things. And a big item that we talked about was environmental justice. You know, first world country doesn't want mining here. Well, then we kind of turn a blind eye to a third world country and let the environmental devastation and stuff happen there. So that is it for my CREO update. There were some questions along the way, but are there any?
You had the thing about fish tank.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, fish are my favorite.
Yeah. I forgot I put pictures of fish in there because I know Scott loves fish from the Santa Cruz. And that
No pictures.
I goofed it.
Very good. I did have one question for you, Max, out of just curiosity,
Sure.
From watching local news, the COVID virus, and I was just amazed at how you were able to hone in on where a virus was coming out of a particular building and everything. Can you kind of illuminate that a little bit? How does that investigative work done? How did you catch things, and how did they find the people who had the virus?
Yeah, well, for us at Wastewater, we weren't getting that granular. We were testing at the treatment plants pretty much exclusively, but in other municipalities and other cities, states, and especially with the U of A, next door, they have the West Center. They were doing a lot of pinpoint dormitory by dormitory sample collections and analysis. And so they were able to say, this dorm is having a huge outbreak right now. Let's try to quarantine. And it's a matter of collecting a sample from their discharge and collecting a sample from this dorm's discharge and then measuring them and seeing which ones are hot. Yeah. But we don't quite have the manpower ready to do that. We'd have to sacrifice a lot from our industrial pretreatment team or others to actually be able to do that. And yeah, we were testing just at the plants themselves.
Okay. You had PFAS?
Now you get to hear from me not once, but twice. Lucky day. Yes, I was asked to give a regulatory update of PFAS. So again, I will try to keep it brief. The obligatory what are PFAS background slides. So PFAS stands for per and polyfluorinated alkyl substances. Perfluorinated means that every available space off of a carbon is taken by a fluorine atom, and polyfluorinated means some of them are. The example on the top is PFOA, perfluorooctanoic acid, and on the bottom is perfluorooctane sulfonate. And these are easily the two most recognizable and talked about PFAS. Their characteristics are they're hydrophilic and hydrophobic, so it gives them special properties that are good in industry and bad in environment. They are used in everything. This slide kind of shows which type of PFAS are used for which type of uses, but by no means is this list exhaustive. And where do they come from and where do they go? Typically, so this slide goes from top to bottom. Typically, they are introduced by firefighting, by industry, consumer goods, domestic sources. Your Teflon pan that works so great as a non-stick eventually loses its PFAS and goes down your drain. They are passively received by landfills, by wastewater, and then they are not treated at those facilities because those don't have the right technology to treat PFAS. And then those are discharged into wastewaters, surface waters, back to landfills, and then things kind of accumulate from there. And then the health effects. There are a lot of health effects that are still being discovered. And the part that makes this difficult is that the PFAS family right now is considered to have over 15,000 different chemicals, individual compounds. As the structures branch here, and this carbon's missing a fluorine, and this one has a double bond. Everyone is a different PFAS. It has different health effects. It has different detection levels. It has different exposure rates. And it makes it very difficult from an analytical stance and from a regulatory stance. And so the EPA is doing health assessments to determine which ones they need to look at, but they need to do a health assessment for every single PFAS. And to give you an idea, the health assessment for PFOA is 556 pages. It was released in April of 2024. The health assessment for PFOS was 514 pages. And now you talk about doing 15,000 of those. And how do you even go from there? Now, where does RWRD fit in? We are in the middle, right? We're the wastewater treatment plant. We receive water from homes and industry. We have two general waste streams, our biosolids and our effluent. The biosolids go to land application or landfills. The effluent goes to surface water. Everything kind of eventually makes it to groundwater. Now, bonus question, where does the city fit in? City of Tucson or any drinking water municipality would take surface water and groundwater and feed it back in. So you have this loop. So again, we have our solids and we have our effluent, and they're going to be handled kind of differently in a regulatory sense. To start out, we have drinking water. And so on April 10th, EPA announced the final national primary drinking water regulation for 6 different PFAS. And these are now given MCLs, maximum contaminant levels, that are official and legally enforceable nationwide. And this is a pretty big deal. PFOA, PFOS, and then 4 to 6 others. It depends how you want to look at it, because there's a hazard index as well. It's funny, Gen X chemicals, which were announced to be the replacement, well, they're also bad for you, it turns out. They're on this list as well. And so what this means for drinking water systems is that they have 5 years from the effective date to implement solutions to reduce PFAS in their drinking water. That's until 2029. And it's expected this will affect about 10% of water utilities. Now, why do I bring up drinking water when we are not a water utility? Well, we are regulated by the Aquifer Protection Program for groundwater. And according to ARS 49-223A, within 1 year after the administrator establishes additional primary drinking water maximum contaminant levels, the director shall open a rulemaking docket pursuant to section 41-1021 for adoption of those MCLs as drinking water aquifer water quality standards. Every single aquifer in the state of Arizona is protected for drinking water source. So our aquifers that we discharge to and our aquifer protection permits are now going to be have PFAS potentially included on their contaminant lists. And so ADEQ, by this rule, must open a rulemaking docket by April 2025 for inclusion of PFAS into the APP. However, ADEQ currently has an open rulemaking docket for arsenic, uranium, chlorite, bromate, trihalomethanes, and haloacetic acids. They opened this last year, and very recently, in April 29th, there was a stakeholder meeting. So this is after EPA's announcement. On April 29th, ADEQ said that they may want to include PFAS in this currently open rulemaking. And, you know, there's a lot, they blamed it on that it would be convenient to them because they're short-staffed and they don't want to have to do it twice. But we did submit comments that that RWD is concerned that there's a lot of unanswered questions about the implementation of it and things about cost, liability, treatment, what happens when it's detected. And I don't think ADEQ is quite prepared to answer those. This is a timeline of the current docket, the current rulemaking docket. If it goes through, there would be baseline monitoring starting at the end of this year, so in 6 months. And PFAS analysis is very expensive. We are already prepared and doing the arsenic, uranium, chloride, bromate, et cetera, and we're budgeted for that, but we're not budgeted for PFAS. And of course, we didn't expect it to be needed on our budget by April 29th of this year. And then, when it's detected in a POC well or from the discharge, what do you do then? Switching to surface water. Surface water is managed through our ZIPDs permits. This is, again, Clean Water Act, part of the NIPDs program. And the county pretty much has 2 branches that are managed by surface water. You have stormwater that's managed by PDEQ. And that's typically done by source control. You don't have direct contributions as clearly as you do from like waste. They can look at a wastewater treatment plant and say you are discharging to a surface water, so you need to treat it. Stormwater just says, okay, well, all of Tucson, we're receiving stormwater from that, and it's really difficult to do it on a grand scale like that. The wastewater treatment plants, we are able to manage it first if put GAC or ion exchange resins there. We can do that, or we can do it through our industrial pretreatment program and maybe prevent big polluters from it ever getting into the sewer. But how do you manage it from a domestic source idea when every single household is shedding PFAS into your sewer system? It gets very difficult. And then what has been done for surface water protection so far? EPA has published a multi-industry PFAS study in 2021. They did release some draft aquatic life criteria for PFAS and PFOA. Those are in the part per million and part per billion range, which are not really of a concern to us yet. Our discharge is in part per trillion. The limits for drinking water are in part per trillion. And then the EPA plans to do a POTW influent PFAS study with the top 200 publicly owned treatment works in the country and have them and analyze industrial users from their sewer shed. And we expect that to happen late 2024, early 2025. Agua Nueva and Tres Rios are in that list. And then ADEQ in the summer of 2022 did a statewide influent effluent biosolids for all ZIPDs permitted facilities in the state. And we participated with 4 facilities: Green Valley, Avra Valley, Tres Rios, Agua Nueva. We were among the lowest recorded in the state. These are the aquatic and wildlife standards. Again, part per million, part per billion, not quite a concern. And then I mentioned RCRA and CERCLA. RCRA has waste. What do you do with it? When you have hazardous waste, how do you dispose of it? It's typically, the idea is that generators are responsible for dealing with their waste in real time. CERCLA is Superfund sites. And how do you clean up an already polluted site? And polluters are financially liable for past pollution. I bring this up because EPA also in April of this year announced a CERCLA designation for PFAS. And currently their idea is this will allow them to speed up remediation of PFAS polluted sites. But there's a lot of concern nationally that we are passive receivers. We don't produce it, we don't use it, but we receive it. And because we don't treat for it, because our plants are not designed to handle this chemical, we discharge it. And so our publicly owned treatment works, our landfills, our commercial airports and other places, well, they use it. So that maybe that's not the best example, but the passive receivers, are they going to be held liable in the future for it? And EPA currently has said no. They've given an exemption, but if anybody knows how CERCLA works, it allows a responsible party to pull in other responsible parties through lawsuit. And one example given was the Passaic Valley Utility in New Jersey dealing still with diamond alkali and all the Agent Orange production that happened there. And it's still not cleaned up and they're still in lawsuits. So this is kind of going to be an interesting area coming up. And I think I went over all this slide without going to it. Yep. And then, so what has RWRD done so far? And this is my final slide. In groundwater, we are currently preparing to do a round of PFAS analysis on all of our POC wells. So as we anticipate that this is going to be a part of our aquifer protection permits eventually, whether that's this year or next year or however, we are going to go around to all of our POC wells and collect samples for PFAS and analyze them. Since 2016, we've measured our influent, effluent, and biosolids. We have that very well characterized. We just haven't really done the POC wells. For surface water, we did participate in ADEQ's 2022 surface water discharge study. Those results are in the upper right. So that's not our results. That's their results from their study. Their mean effluent total PFAS, the sum of all PFAS detected, was 167 nanograms per liter. We were in the 40 range, so well below the mean and the median. We have independently collected PFAS from 11 different industrial users over the last year just to gauge where it is. So we've gone to some carpet cleaners, some car washes, just some various industries to kind of see who might be our polluters. And then in biosolids, as you all know, in 2020, we did a biosolids case study to evaluate the land application of biosolids and the impacts that might have. So even though no regulations currently affect us, we've been pretty proactive in characterizing and monitoring it. Here's just an example of one of our internal tracking documents to record the history of our analyses. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, Max. Thank you very much. Out of curiosity, I have just one question. You mentioned the PFAS was in the nonstick frying pans and stuff like that.
Yep.
Are we in health hazard of getting any bad things from these nonstick frying pans?
Absolutely.
Oh boy.
It's in everything. It's in everything. It's in the air you breathe. It's in your clothing. It's in your shirts. It's in the highest, tallest peaks in Mount Everest. It's at this point you almost cannot escape it. Common and pervasive.
Yeah, that's where my conclusion is hazardous to live.
But quit licking the bottom of the pan.
Okay, I'm looking up here. I don't see any questions. Does anybody have questions for Max for his 2 presentations that he's given here in the room or online? Max, you did a fantastic job. You got him spellbound. Oh, we got Claire. There we go. There goes the hand. Claire.
Hi. That was really a great presentation, both of those presentations. I am curious about other wastewater providers in Arizona and how they're dealing with some of the PFAS issues. Are they also, I'm sure they're also having to go through this. Do we have anybody leading this, or are we really at the forefront of it with our agency?
That's a good question. I'm not working on this with the city of Phoenix or Flagstaff or any of the other municipalities. But it'd be good to bring up at a wastewater treatment, AZ water meeting or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe, I mean, having been involved in the 208 process, maybe that, I don't know if that group is still meeting, but that would be a good place to talk about it. Because there's private wastewater facilities as well that are probably dealing with this. So,
Yeah, I don't really know so much about Arizona, but I've been working with wastewater utilities like Minnesota, Hawaii, different places. And one of my clients is Met Council in Minnesota. It's a huge wastewater regional facility. And they, it's on their radar, but they're trying to stay under the radar, if you know what I mean. It's like they want to be proactive, but they don't want to become a target. So I think that's how a lot of wastewater, so I commend County for being proactive because it's coming. This wave's coming, and if you're not prepared, you're going to get drowned. So, but yeah, that's my only input as to what I've seen. In the industry.
Because it's incredibly intimidating with the dollars that could affect you and what you're going to have to do. And there's still so many unanswered questions.
and the difficulty of the disposal and all of that, it's just, the treatment is so murky. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay, does anybody else have any additional questions? These are great questions. Going once, going twice. Okay, Max, you've been relieved of duty. Thank you very, very much. That was an excellent presentation. Now I'm scared for the rest of my life. Okay, next on the agenda, we got to know where all the pluses and minuses come from. So we've got the fiscal year 23-24 period 11 expense and revenue summary with Isai. Isai, it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I'll share my screen and we'll be going over the information. Excellent. I hope everyone can see on my screen.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So for period 11 ended in May 31st, we can see that our adopted budget is still 96.7. Our actuals at that point was $87 million, projection 97.7, and our variance about $1 million. As Jackson was saying, we have to be moving funds around in order to cover the supply and services deficit of about $2.6 million. So wastewater is being very proactive in moving things around so we can able to come within budget. Going down here to total O&M expenses including contra and depreciation and debt services. We are adopted at 176 million. Our actuals is at 154.6, and we're projecting at 177.2 million. Again, having a variance of 1.2 million overall that. And we're scrolling down here to total revenue. Our adopted is 194.6 million. Our actuals at that point was 193.4. We're projecting to have 211 almost 0.2 million, giving us a positive of $16.5 million. And we can see the sewer fee is coming under by 4.3 million, and that is due to the variance of the winter quarter average going from 7 cc's to 6 ccfs. Apologize. But overall, wastewater is coming up pretty strong on the revenue, and that also increased the liability ratio to 1.44. Questions on the financials?
Okay,
All right.
was that it, I see?
Yep, thank you, so, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Does anybody have any questions for Isai on, the revenues and the expenses? Okay, it looks like you got them dumbfounded. They're very satisfied. Very good, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Next on the agenda is the financial subcommittee report with Matt. Oh, yours, sir.
Thank you. We have not had a subcommittee meeting since our last meeting, so no report there. But we do expect to have a meeting sometime in the August, September range to analyze and discuss the financial planning pillars that the county has and the impacts that those pillars have on wastewater financial planning, so we can have everything clear and squared away for our discussions about next year's budget. That's it.
Okay, very good, Matt. Thank you. Anybody have questions for Matt on the financial subcommittee?
Pat, just one comment. This is Kirsten. Just let me know when you guys are meeting, because I think I've been drafted into your thing.
Sounds good. I'll keep you.
Okay, anybody else have any comments for Matt? Okay, thank you, Matt. Next on the agenda is the CIP subcommittee report with Asia. Asia, it's all yours.
She's not here.
She here.
No, she's not here.
Okay.
I can, Matt, I can give the report because it's easy. We also did not meet. And so we have nothing, I have nothing to update. We will be meeting again in fall. We've had our traditional summer meeting and I reported on that at our last meeting. So.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Okay, anybody else? Okay, next, we have the citizen or the CWAC, Citizen Water Advisory Committee report with Alan. Oh, yours, sir.
So Steve Wack met on June 5th. Few of the items that I thought were relevant to bring forward here. One is that City of Tucson entered into what we call inter-AMA exchange agreements with 3 valley cities. That's Peoria, Gilbert, and Scottsdale. And so what this is, it's the same agreement that Tucson Water, City of Tucson entered into with City of Phoenix about 10 years ago, whereby it's kind of complicated, but it's really kind of simple when you think about it. But basically what it does is the valley cities let their water come, CAP water come down to our basin. Tucson Water takes delivery of that water, recharges it in Apra Valley, but it stays in City of Phoenix name, the water that's stored there. Then during times of shortage, where City of Phoenix can't get their full allocation that they need, basically they can take the recovery of the water that they put in the Tucson AMA, they can take right out of the canal and deliver that water. And in exchange, City of Tucson recovers City of Phoenix water delivered to their customers here in Tucson. So it sounds convoluted, but it's really pretty straightforward. It's just an accounting thing. It's like putting it in the bank here, but withdrawing it, off a revenue stream up here, and Tucson recovering that and making withdrawals down here. So that's been in place, like I said, for about 10 years. So now they've entered into the same agreement with Peoria, Gilbert, and Scottsdale. I'm kind of surprised it took 10 years because it's such a win-win thing, when you think about it, because it gives the valley cities some security on their water supplies, but it also puts the physical water here in our basin, which is always a great thing. So it's really a win-win all the way around for everybody. So we'll probably see more of it as we move. The other thing that staff talked about was the Tucson Water checkbook. And basically what this is just they do an annual accounting of water they bring in versus water that is delivered. And if you're not aware, all of the CAP water that Tucson Water gets recharged, put in the ground, and then they pull out what they need to deliver. And there's usually a difference. They put more in the ground than they pull out. So they're always in a positive as far as their checkbook accounting goes. They're always increasing their amounts. And that's the same this past year, although because they agreed to defer or not take some of their allocation to help the main stem of Colorado, in particular, keep water in Lake Mead. They didn't take a delivery of as much water. I think it was about 30,000 acre feet, somewhere in that range.
2023?
Yeah, yeah.
The 50,000.
50,000, yeah. So that meant we recharged 50,000 acre feet less, but we were still in a positive for the year. So it was still good, just not as good as usual. The last, well, there were maybe two things real quick, but we talked quite a bit about water legislation, and the upshot of that is everything we talked about either didn't get passed through the legislature by the end of the session, or it got vetoed by the governor. So as far as I know, there wasn't really any new water legislation that made it through this year. So, and then there was some discussion on the water service area policy update. Well, staff gave us an update, and then there was some discussion afterwards. And I think that's something that CWAC is going to try to revisit, because they're still, even though it's been in place for 15 years, the processes are still evolving, to make sure it's doing what it's intended to do. So I think CWAC will probably, revisit it. We'll see if there's any improvements or changes that they want to recommend to the city. So that's it for CWAC.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Alan. Anybody have additional questions for Alan at CWAC? Okay, not hearing any. We jump right into our future agenda items. Anybody have any comments, any wish lists that they want to put on the future agenda? Yes, Claire.
Yes, I would really love to have a presentation on the Copper World situation. I hadn't realized that you were engaged with that, and I think that would be really useful for the group. If possible.
Excellent. That's great, Claire. Anybody else have any wish for a future agenda item?
Tim, you want to bring up an update on what's going on? Pleasure Road?
Sure. Well, to request rather than an update right now.
Well, not
just
right now,
request-
but I mean, putting it on the schedule.
Request time in future agendas, ideally monthly, 5 to 10 minutes to provide an update. I included this meeting in our cooperative agreement with EPA to execute the grant for Roger Road. I think this is a great venue because people know about it. It's an established meeting with the ability to join in person here or virtually. So yes, I'd like to request 10 to 15 minutes quarterly for presentation, but at every meeting, at least 5 for quick update.
That's great. That's good. Thank you very much for that.
I also recommend that the board consider, as, you know, I can always put it as a director's update, but in September meeting, that's the 1-year anniversary of the county shifting to the new, after the CBIZ compensation study, we changed the whole way we do our compensation and stuff. And I periodically do a staffing and other type of updates. So I think just to kind of talk about how that's gone and where we are wastewater and or the county in general. So kind of a staffing update report in September.
Great. Thank you, Jackson.
Another topic potentially, whether it's a director's update or a presentation, Superintendent Hines is interested in kind of green projects. So one of them is the solar project, for instance. So I know we're what, about a year in, like what's those kind of projects. So just whatever updates you can give on your green things.
Green thing.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Any other future agenda items? Got a good list going here for the future. Let's keep it going. Anybody else? Okay, I guess we just tapped out. Okay. Yes.
Periodic updates on PFAS stuff. Where it's headed. I mean, I kind of leave it up to you, Max. I think when something changes significantly enough, or when we know something more, or maybe the results of the testing or whatever. But I find that interesting to just kind of stay on top of that.
Yeah, that's your turn, Chris.
Especially if it sounds like it's always going to be there to bite us forever.
Yeah.
Okay, any last chances for future agenda items? We've got a good list going here. Okay, well, very good. Now we're going to jump into call to the audience. Is there any comments, anything to be said at call to the audience?
I have one question.
Yes.
This is for Max with the PFAS. Mentioned that you sample from 11 industrial users, and I was wondering if those concentrations, are they high?
They varied. The highest we saw were carpet cleaners.
Okay.
But it's there, you know, and we know that the water they're receiving from the city is clean. So it's coming from the activities or especially the carpet cleaners. They're kind of passive receivers too, right? They're not using PFAS chemicals to clean the carpets. It's in the carpet. All over the place.
Any more call to the audience? Okay, I have one question for our online people. I try and project my voice so it can all be heard by everybody online and all that. We had other people talking today. Today, did you hear everybody's voices, or do they need to project more? Because I'm just trying to figure out our technology. Is it sensitive enough to pick it up? Everybody hear everybody?
I
Okay.
heard everyone, but some of the voices were a little soft, but I heard everyone. Mhm.
The
So,
recording typically comes up and that you could hear everything.
yeah, so that's just a thing to keep in mind when you're here in the room. Try and project for our technology here.
I will work on better projection.
You don't have any problem, Jackson.
It wasn't you, Jackson. You're good. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. Now we've come to that infamous adjournment. Do I have a motion for an adjournment? Do we
I'll
have a second?
Okay.
Okay, we got Anne Marie on the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Hi.
Any nays? Abstains? Just remember our calendar for we are not doing anything during July.
Right,
When is it in August?
August. The next meeting is August 22nd.
August 22nd. Be there, be square. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for attending today. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.